All right, let's get into the AFC. Bengals versus Titans. How about this matchup? A lot of stuff to talk about here. Let's just start with the bases. Tad, we'll go to you first. Talk about one key offensive matchup for Cincinnati.
All right, the Bengals, they have a big-time weapon in A.J. Green, but that's not where I'm going to go with. I'm going to go with the secondary weapons here. Jermaine Gresham and Jerome Simpson have really come alive, in the last couple games. I think they're going to be key. Also, the Bengals, out of the two rookie quarterbacks in this game, they have the better and more experienced rookie quarterback in Andy Dalton. I think they should air it out and try to make Houston play from behind. I think that's what they need to do offensively. They get a big lead, put the ball in T.J. Yates' hand instead of the Houston running game's hands.
Very interesting. And what about on the other side of the ball?
You said it, airing out the ball. I agree. That's what they're going to do. And I think Houston's going to key in on their biggest offensive weapon, A.J. Green, and they're going to put him with their best corner, a former Cincinnati Bengal, Jonathan Joseph. I mean, Green's, he is battling a shoulder injury, which he injured about a month ago, so he's still battling that. But Houston's pass coverage, third in the NFL this year, and Joseph is their best cover guy. He leads, tied for the team lead with 4 interceptions, leads the team with 15 pass deflections. Excellent tackler, too. And he rarely allows yards after the catch, which is a really big thing when you're trying to stop a big play weapon like an A.J. Green. So how these two match up during the game will be a very, very important thing for both teams, because A.J. Green is that one really big game changer for the Cincinnati offense. As good as Simpson and Gresham have been down the stretch, A.J. Green's the guy that could really change a game for the Cincinnati offense.
What about a defensive matchup for Cincinnati?
Defensively, they did a great job the last time these two teams played against the run. Arian Foster was held to 2.7 yards per carry. That's a great that they did that. If they can do that again, they're going to be in good shape. There is one X factor that Andre Johnson didn't play the last time these two teams played. That's something you have to worry about. I still think Cincinnati has to focus on stopping that run game, and if Andre Johnson is able to hurt them, they have to take that chance. But their focus has to be on Ben Tate and Arian Foster.
And on the other side?
I agree with that. It has to be those two backs, and it's going to be matched up against Cincinnati's linebackers led by Ray Maluga. And as well as that defensive line has to hold their ground, but the linebackers have to stay patient and fill the gaps. Arian Foster this year and the past 2 years has showed very excellent patience in his vision running the ball. His cutback ability is second to none in the league. And he's also a very, very good receiver. So look for him to also receive plenty of targets from T.J. Yates as well. And he might be matched up one-on-one with some of these linebackers, including Ray Maluga. He's arguably their most physical interior lineman, but he's also, the linebacker, but he's a very, very inconsistent linebacker, as we've seen this year. So their gap integrity is really what's going to come down to stopping the run against these two backs. So the last time these two teams met in Week 14, Houston won the game by a point. But having Andre Johnson and their full display of weapons at T.J. Yates' disposal, the linebackers for Cincinnati have to stay truly disciplined if they want to win this game.
Yeah, that Week 14 matchup, a very interesting matchup. Remember, it was T.J. Yates' heroics at the end of the game that brought it to them. But your point is well taken about Arian Foster. 41 yards on the ground, and Ben Tate had 67, but two-thirds of that was one long run in the first quarter. So really, they shut down the running game. And I would argue, you shut down the Texans' running game, you shut down the Texans.
Yeah, you're in good shape.
You're in pretty good shape. Now, what I did see when I was rewatching this game was I saw a lot of play-action passing from T.J. Yates, and you saw the Bengals basically biting on it a lot. That's interesting to see now that we have Andre Johnson back in the mix. So if the play-action pass works as well as it did then, and you have a weapon like Andre Johnson, possibly the Texans could be a little bit better through the air than they were back in Week 14. That could be a game changer. So we'll see. His health may not be all the way up to 100%. T.J. Yates isn't used to throwing to him. And really it comes down to Foster and Tate. Now, talking about the Bengals, got some stats for Bengals fans that you're not going to like. 0-7 versus playoff teams this year.
9-0 versus non-playoff teams.
Cup half full, cup half empty. Yeah. They've only beaten one team with a winning record the entire season. That team is Tennessee. It's the only team they beat with a winning record. They also haven't won a playoff game since 1990. So factor that all into your picks. But as far as the Bengals go, just a little bit more about their offense. Do you think that Cedric Benson will be a factor?
Well, that's one thing that you don't.
Now that Wade Phillips is back calling defensive plays for this team, he's been out on medical leave the past 3, and no, he's not out there on the field playing, but having him calling defensive plays is going to be a huge difference for this Houston defense. And I think they're going to try to make Andy Dalton beat him. A rookie quarterback playing his first ever playoff game on the road. They're going to try to make Dalton beat him. They're going to take Cedric Benson out of this game.
I think the Bengals like to set everything up with the run. They love to go with Cedric Benson, and Cedric Benson, another 1,000-yard year, averaged almost 4 yards a carry throughout the year. They're going to have to resist trying to do that because, like I said, I think the Bengals need to jump on the Texans. I think they need to throw the ball. I think they need to get ahead by 10 points, 14 points. If they do that, they're going to be in really good shape. So they got to resist the urge of trying to run first to set up the pass. I think they need to throw passes, get points, and run to try to get the clock moving after that. Bernard Scott, by the way, last week scored a touchdown against the Ravens. He's getting more involved in the running game as well. He's more of a home run threat than Cedric Benson.
Let's make our picks here. Why don't you go first?
With much deliberation, I'm going to take the Houston Texans. This was the hardest game to pick. I've been even back and forth while we were talking on who I think is going to win this game. I think the quarterback matchup goes to Andy Dalton. I think Andy Dalton is the better quarterback in this. I think the moment may be too big for TJ Yates. That could hurt Houston. But the return of Wade Phillips and that Houston defense making enough plays, I think they'll win the game. I think Arian Foster or Ben Tate will get off. And I think the play action pass, I think Andre Johnson will burn the Bengals once. And that's all he'll need to do.
Hey, Ross?
I think Houston will win this game as well. Being the home team, their defense is going to really show up to this game. And also, with Andre Johnson back, that should open things up over the middle. Look out for Houston's tight ends, Owen Daniels and James Casey, who's more of an H-back, hasn't had much action, but had 7 catches for 91 yards last week against Tennessee. Has had another 100-yard game against the Saints in Week 3. He's another secondary weapon that TJ Yates could use in this game. So look out for Houston's tight ends. I like Houston by 3 in this one.
Well, you forgot about the third tight end, Joel Dreesen. The guy catches more touchdowns than anyone.
He's their red zone guy. Yeah.
So they got 3 good ones.
They do, and that's even bigger with the play. Well, maybe not bigger with the play action, but that's a big deal, especially in the red zone. These are 2 teams that I really like. I've been rooting these teams on all year. They have a Cinderella-type feel to them. Houston was dominant all season until they lost Shaw, but they continued to win, and they don't have that Cinderella record, but based on their last 5 years, they feel Cinderella-y to me. You know, you feel like this is the year they could do it, except for the Shaw injury. I've been a fan of Cincinnati all year. You know, I've been picking them in tough spots. They've been playing well. But listen, I'm going to take the Texans in this one. TJ Yates, I don't know. It was earlier on, obviously. 2nd or 3rd start after the Shaw injury in that first game against Cincinnati. It was around there. It was early on. Arian Foster was held to 41 yards, Tate for 67. Yet, in every offensive category, the Texans dominated. In a game that I would say TJ Yates did not play well in.
No.
And Andre Johnson was on the sidelines for. 412 total yards to 285 to Cincinnati, 144 to 101 in rushing, 268 to 184 in passing, in a game where the Texans were not at full capacity.